right. Welcome. How y'all doing? Dem island boys. Dem island boys. And dem island girls. I'm on a boat. I'm on a boat. Look at me. I'm on a boat. Shell Beach. We're headed to the island. Y'all coming with me? Island literature. This is a subgenre that I just realized I haven't covered. Island lit. So, we'll be talking about a couple books. The meat of this analysis. This is off here. Let me set this straight. What is that? Backpack. We don't want no backpacks in the scene. Get out of here. This is my homemade set. Island lit. It's its own subgenre. On the one hand, the island is paradise because everyone wants to get to Shell Beach. If you remember, Shell Beach is that Truman Show or is it Dark City or both? Right? The protagonist is trapped in a synthetic world and he's seeking to get back to some Edenic home type of situation. For example, Homer in the Odyssey. Homer's Odyssey, right? Odysseus wants to get home because there's a bunch of bros spitting game at his lady. The suitors. Odysseus about to get cucked on the 7 seas. Plus he's tempted with them harpies out there flapping their fish tails. Their whale tails. Get it? Whale tail with panties, but whale tail because they're mermaids or whatever. Anyway. So the island in literature functions as both chaos and wild, primal, chaotic nature. And yet it can also function as paradise. Because everybody wants to head down to Florida to Shell Beach. What the heck? Why is this all messed up? There we go. That's much better. There we go. What the heck? And I got to thinking, actually there's quite a few pieces of literature and film. We always tie the lit and the film together because not enough people in our era actually read books, so everyone needs movie versions because they're lazy and they don't read books. But also because we love movies and it's fun to tie it into the film versions. We're going to be talking about some selections. We'll talk a little bit about The Island of Dr. Moreau. We will talk about The Beach, starring Leo Caprio. A couple thoughts on Treasure Island. Mosquito Coast, which is a really weird film. I watched it back when I was in high school. I didn't really understand it. I remember having like hippie-ish thoughts like, yeah, man, we should like go back to nature or whatever, dude. And we will be covering, of course, the meat of this episode will be Lord of the Flies. The classic novel. A lot of symbolism packed into this novel. We're going to be breaking it all down. Peggy. Slam Peggy. Jamie, did you bring me that coffee? I don't know where I set it down. Espresso. And I think that's it. Oh, Lost. The TV show Lost. Now the first... Well, actually, I'm not sure what the first is to kick all this off. So we got a couple that I've not read. Actually, one I've not read. I just picked this up the other day. I've not read Jules Verne's Mysterious Island. It's a much heftier adventure book than I thought. It's like 500 pages. Most adventure novels, they're like 200 pages. But Mysterious Island by Jules Verne's like 500, so it might take me a while to get through that one. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I did, as you guys probably know, if you're a longtime Jason Analysis follower, we did a pretty deep dive essay some years back on Island of Dr. Moreau. There we go. This is all jankied, all jankified, all side goggling. And this, let's see, 1896. Let's see when Mysterious Island is. Probably Robinson Crusoe kicks it off, right? Let's see. Mysterious Island is way after that. But you'll notice that all of these classic ones influence, obviously, all of the present day stuff. Even Pirates of the Caribbean, which we had a great time analyzing, Jamie and I together. Even Pirates of the Caribbean obviously draws on all of these. In fact, if you watch the Disney Treasure Island, literally Captain Barbossa, I couldn't believe this, is identical to Captain Long John Silver. I mean, they had to have told Jeffrey Rush when he's Captain Barbossa, like, just be Captain Long John Silver. Now, why is this interesting? This is the first Disney feature film. So Disney's first actual movie that wasn't animated is actually Treasure Island, which is interesting. There's some kind of surprising things in this kid's 1950 Disney movie. Like, people are literally getting shot in the face in a 1950 Disney movie. I was surprised to see that. I didn't expect muskets to be busting people's faces open, but they went pretty wild back then. Let's see, when is the original publishing date of Jules Verne? I'm trying to remember that. Well, it doesn't say. Well, I know it's it's got to be like 1890s, right? Wasn't he writing all his stuff late 1800s? Anyway, I'll look that up later. Nobody cares. But Island of Dr. Moreau was 1896. Robinson Crusoe was way earlier. So it has to be the first one, right? And I've read that many years ago. That's not on today's topics. So he wrote that in 1719. Wow, okay. So Robinson Crusoe is the first. I remember growing up, one of my favorite movies as a kid was Island Boys. No, I'm joking. Was Robinson Crusoe. Did you guys watch that? Which also I think is a Disney movie. Disney really wanted us all stranded on islands, didn't they? Remember Pleasure Island too? Is that in Pinocchio? Which, by the way, Jordan Peterson always brings up his Pinocchio analysis, and he'll talk about the island, the abyss, all this stuff, right? The symbolism of that as well. Well, it's chaos. The island's chaos. Well, it's not civilization, you know. It's fucking chaos, you know. Amber Heard? Was she in one of these? All right, I'm getting all confused and lost. Let's go back to Treasure Island. We're going to start there. We'll work our way through this other stuff. Not a whole lot to say about this in terms of... There's not a lot of symbolism. It was just interesting. I read this when I was a kid. I have multiple versions of the book that I've had. One since I was a kid that I think was my dad's book. And then I got a special edition of it. I did not remember much of this since being a kid. But again, like, I didn't realize how much of this is literally just copied and pasted into Pirates of the Caribbean, which doesn't really bother me. I mean, everything draws on things before, but let's see if I can actually play him talking, because he's literally Captain Barbossa.
Silver, portrayed by that world-famous star, Robert Newton.
We can take this ship right now. Then I say cut the throats. And I say there'll be no killing till I gives the word.
And I say there'll be no killing till I gives the word. You must be believe in ghost stories. You must be believing in them because you're in one.
You know, I mean, he's literally Barbossa, like, to the T. So, now, Robert Louis Stevenson, if I recall, had some interesting atheistic views, and that might affect, or agnostic, I guess I should say, that might affect some of the theology in the story. Although I didn't really pay much attention to it, theology-wise. Because again, we're talking about the movie here. I don't remember what I read in the book when I was a kid, but it's really just a fun adventure story. So not a lot to say about it, except that it sets the stage for many stories and novels to come. And even the part towards the end of the Disney film where basically everybody's double crossing each other and tricking each other, which is kind of amusing. That part was kind of funny. That's all throughout Pirates of the Caribbean, right? So again, Pirates of the Caribbean totally draws from Treasure Island. All right, not much to say about that. So let's move on to the beach. Jamie and I took a lot of notes on the beach, and we got to talk about Leo here for a minute, because one wonders watching this movie, is there any parallel to the actual life of Leo given this odd movie? If you've not seen The Beach, I recommend going and watching it. The TV show Survivor, yeah, TV show Survivor definitely probably draws from a lot of these island adventure stories. But keep in mind that The Beach is directed by Danny Boyle, who directed some interesting MK Ultra themed films like the James McAvoy movie Trance, where he is put into a hypnotic trance by Rosario Dawson in order to steal high-priced artwork in an art heist type of film. Danny Boyle did the 2012 Olympics sequence with James Bond and the Queen. Interesting connections there. By the way, I was mistaken some years back when I said Danny Boyle did all of the 2012 Olympics. He only did the opening sequence with Daniel Craig and the Queen, so he didn't direct the whole thing. And he directed 28 Days Later, the famous zombie thriller, and a few other things. Sunshine, which now I'm getting him mixed up with Garland, because here's the whole point of all this. The book is written by Alex Garland. Yes, that Alex Garland, right? And Garland made the movie, not just Civil War, which was total propaganda that we all probably saw recently, but also Ex Machina, which Tristan and I did a recent renewed breakdown of. I put it in my first or second book. He also did Annihilation, which had Luciferian themes. And I thought he did Sunshine, or did Danny Boyle do Sunshine? So now I'm getting mixed up because Danny Boyle directed Alex Garland's book, The Beach, but Alex Garland directs a bunch of horror movies and the horrible movie, Civil War. I did a breakdown, by the way, of Annihilation, which had these bizarre Luciferian themes, and I did a breakdown of, I didn't do Men because I thought Men sucked. It was this weird feminist horror. It's like super cringe, dude. Why are you making feminist horror? But he wrote The Beach, which is the Danny Boyle movie with Leo. So I've not read this book, so we're only analyzing the film. I don't know if the film differs from the book. But we're going to have, once again, this theme of retreating from, quote, civilization to the paradise of the island of Shell Beach. And is that really the answer? Can we actually retreat from the problems of civilization? Because many people, especially liberals, progressives, over the last century, they began to think that man's problem is itself civilization. So in other words, the problems aren't internal to man, man's heart, that he's fallen, that he chooses vice. No, it's out there. It's society. Society, man. Society, dude. Now, certainly there is an element of society as a problem. No, The Beach is not about nuclear war. I mean, the book, I don't know. Perhaps. So we're only talking about the Leo movie, The Beach. But the theme will, as you'll notice, continually be, it's not actually the island, or excuse me, it's not actually civilization that's man's problem. We will especially see that in the heavily symbolic Harrison Ford film Mosquito Coast that we'll talk about here in a second. But the same themes pop up really in all of these. So in a way, they're cautionary tales. Also, my own speculation, I think this is definitely true with Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. The island is also kind of a miniature symbol of the world. So we can have a miniature microcosm of the world. Of course, in the Island of Dr. Moreau, you have this evil creator god. I think it's very Gnostic. Dr. Moreau, who's experimenting and creating these cross genetic hybrids. Remember Alex Jones talking about the fish, the tanks, the they've got them in tanks, folks. Let her gulp and try to breathe. It's one of my favorite. I can never find it though. Alex Jones. I mean, it's straight up Island of Dr. Moreau, right? It's Jones Wave with the Bogdanovs. Will it ever come up again? I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. If somebody can find the Bogdanov song by Alex, please put it in the thing. I can never find this. It's always hidden. If you search exactly the right thing, it'll pop up. It's the one about the genetic hybrids in the tank. It's awesome. By the way, I'm going to just put that on Twitter so that I'll have it. Alex got bogged. It's not this one. This one will pop up, but it's not this one. That's not it. That sucks, by the way. I know we always go down these rabbit trails, but I promise you it's worth it if I can find it. It's not gay frogs. I think I have it saved in my... Let me see if I have it saved in my list here. I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. It's not that one. Let's see. You can search liked videos, can you? Yeah, you can search liked videos. You can't search liked videos on your freaking phone, though. Let me try it this way. Because somebody have the Bogdanov song. Why do I not have this on Twitter? I should have put it on Twitter. It's not... That ain't freaking copyrighted. Jones. I can't remember if it's Jones Wave or Jones Synthwave. Jones Wave. I'll never find this now. Ugh. You're gonna lose like half the audience while I'm trying to find this stupid thing that just popped in my head. Let's see. I thought you could search liked videos. Can you not do that anymore? Maybe I can. You can just search history. Okay, so you can search history, but not liked videos. That's weird. Jones. Let's try that. Okay, here we go. Alex Jones singing Danzig Mother. That's pretty good, but not what I'm after. Dark Jones. Dark Jones. Does anyone have this? How do I not have this? No, Siri, get out of here. Alright, forget this shit. This is wasting everybody's time. Get out of here, Siri. Shut up.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. You listen to me. We practice abuse here with Siri. Nobody can find it. Can anyone find the Alex Bogdanov Dark Wave Synthwave? It's in my favorites, but you can't search liked or favorites, which is ridiculous. It might have got taken down too. Dark Jones Wave. It starts with Alex crying because they're putting the creatures into tanks and they're gulping for air. Wow. Don't tell me that's gonna... If that goes away, we're all gonna suffer, because that should never go away. It's one of the best... Shit, I don't even know what to search anymore. Alex Jones, Synthwave, Bogdanov. Heavy metal, that's not it. Every time I do this, I have a hard time finding it too. And there's like some like secret code you got to put in to get the actual thing to pop up. Is it dark wave? Maybe that's what it is. Dark wave. I'm relying on the nerds in the chat to find this. All right, I guess I'm just gonna have to give up. We'll never find it. Slow Boy says she can find it. I will be impressed if you do. By the way, you can support the stream through the super chats here on the right. Jeff Goldblum is the Lord of the Flies. Like, dude legit became Lord of the Flies. All right, let's get back. I'll never find this. It pisses me off though because it's really funny. Alex Jones, synthwave, and then people put up all these ones that are no good. This algorithm is freaking broke, dude. What is all this garbage? Oh. Jones wave? No, that's not it. Maybe you just gotta keep scrolling, it'll pop up. New World Order remix? No, that's not it. Stars. All in? No. Alex Jones vaporwave? That's not it. Although this one's funny. I played this one at the live events. It's not what I'm looking for though. It has Alex crying about the GMO people in the fish tanks. it's so ridiculous. This one's good too though. All right, I give up. I can't find it. I don't know. I will give a free book to anyone that can find it. If you find the Alex Jones Dark Wave Bogdanov, you get a free book. Alex Jones Techno, that might be it. It's there's something. It's like a weird something you got to type in to find it. And I do this every time I'm trying to find it. I have to do this. I go through the same process, even though I've saved it in the favorites more than once. Shows techno. Wait a minute. Do I have it on my live event playlist? I think I do. Can I play that on here? I think I can. No, this isn't it. I get obsessed when I try to find this crap, and then the whole stream just turns into people watching me search for stuff, which is not entertaining. Alex Jones breath. What is this? Let's see what this is. That's a different Alex Jones. I don't think that's our Alex Jones. Anyway. Okay, so back to the what are we talking about? The beach. The beach. 2000. So wow, this is even before the Big 9. We got cool beach guy Leo, fresh off of Titanic, right? I'm the king of the world. He's literally like king of the world at this time. Okay, I don't know why this is so dark, but Leo in Bangkok. Leo drinks snake blood. Now you watch this and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be a weird teen party movie, right? The first time I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, this is not what I expected. We're going to go to Bangkok. We're going to go party. And Leo being, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, whatever he is, he's thirsting for extreme experiences. Remember in the late 90s and then in 2000 when they had pushed extreme sports, dude? Extreme. And we've laughed about this before. ESPN came out with a separate channel, ESPN Extreme, and everything had to be like what? It's just basically all the other shit that everybody already did, but tied into Mountain Dew somehow. That made it extreme. Extreme bicycling. What makes it extreme? Mountain Dew, dude, and long hair. Extreme skateboarding. But there already was skateboarding. Yeah, but this is like with Mountain Dew and shit, bro. Remember we talked about this last time, that Sean dude. Remember how big he was? Sean, the snowboarding dork. Sean, what's his face? Sean White, is that him? Yeah, that guy. What, dude? So this is on the cusp of all of that stuff, right? Extreme X Games. And what makes it extreme? Having Mountain Dew and shit, or BMX bikes. Remember that? BMX bikes, dude, extreme. Extreme. But really all of that was a marketing gimmick. And in fact, Riff Tracks did an analysis of a movie that was pushing extreme crap from this time period. And I kid you not, the whole movie was a paid-for advertisement. It's good to be rad. Rad, this is it. Have you heard of Rad? So this whole movie was a paid advertisement by one of these bicycle companies, a BMX or something. I don't know what it was. It was a big failure, by the way. And what's funny is that I knew just instinctively that this had to be a marketing push. Well, it turns out this movie proves that. Good to be bad or rad or whatever this is. Rad, okay? If you look into the movie, the history of this film, like the whole thing was paid for by the biking company. It was filmed in Canada in some weird Canadian small town. And it's just to get kids into extreme rad BMX biking. And this came out in, I don't know, it looks like about 86 or 7. Anyway, the Riff Tracks is pretty funny on it. It's not the best Riff Tracks, but it was alright. It was pretty good. So this is like the era, and they're pushing. Leo is like an extreme dude. So he wants extreme experiences. He's over here chugging snake blood. He's alone, which I guess going to Bangkok when you're like 19 and drinking snake blood is an extreme experience to do that alone. And so he gets in this hostel, and he's staying there with this crazy, I guess he's Scottish? Yeah. His name's Daffy. Literally named after Daffy Duck. So we got the Disney stuff coming in. And the dude in the hostel next to is like literally nuts and telling him about this, basically treasure island that he can go to. So Leo befriends the French couple in the hostel on the other side. And they're like, yeah, let's go do it, man. Let's we're sitting here smoking that, weak ass Bangkok weed and drinking that weak ass Bangkok snake blood. Let's go 500 miles up the countryside in one day. Literally, they drive 500 miles in a day, which would be quite a challenge to do. But they drive 500 miles to go to damn Treasure Island. Okay. So, or once again, Leo's out here on the waters. There's something with Leo and water. Now, why do I say that? Well, I'm kind of being silly, but at the same time, by the way, you're saying Jay says for $1. You scroll past the Alex Jones folk song. Bro, I sang the Alex Jones folk song almost on a daily basis for like a month. So you're talking to a man who knows that song very well. I was humming it if you didn't hear. By the way, shout out to this dude. These the original Island Boys. Dim is the original Island Boys. Dim's the Island Boys. I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. No. I'm looking for the Alex Jones dark wave, synth wave, Bogdanov song about genetic engineering, which actually makes perfect sense with the Island of Dr. Moreau, but I can't find the damn song. I could technically pull up. I don't know if this will work. I could try it. Let me see if I can, because I have my playlist for our live events, and I think it's on the playlist, the live event playlist. I'm angry. I've had enough of these people. They're a bunch of Christian battery scum. Building giant death factories, keeping babies alive. Selling their body parts. What more do I need to know about these people? I'll go out and chase these scum. Let's see. Where is the live events? Shows? No, that's not it. Backgrounds? No, that's not it. Recent? No. I don't have to dig for it to find it, but I have it. Just don't have it handy. So nobody can find it. How did no one else save this thing? Technically, I did save it. I just have to find it. But I can't believe no one else saved it. Anyway, so Leo decides, okay, this crazy Scottish dude is telling me about this island. He's drawing me a map. Let's go 500 miles. I mean, this is getting wild, right? I mean, this is like, you got to be an idiot 18-year-old to do this kind of crazy shit, right? Nobody else would do this. Driving across Bangkok, drinking snake blood, getting a map from a damn Scottish tweaker, literally. I mean, dude's like insane meth head. Who else would follow a map 500 miles away from a meth head? A Scottish meth head. I wouldn't follow a map from a straight Scottish man, much less a Scottish meth head man. Anyway. Well, Leo decides he's tired of being alone, and so he starts spitting game at Etienne's girlfriend. I forget her name, right? The French chick. So he befriends these two, and you know they're smoking that weak Bangkok weed. They're ready to go get that island stuff, them island boy smoke. But Leo starts making some mistakes. He decides he's going to start macking on the French chick, and he spits this alternate universe game, which is weird because multiverse wasn't a big topic in the year 2000. Maybe a few nerds did. But there's this weird line where he starts spitting this game on whatever the French girl's name is. And she actually says, don't you know that every French girl knows that when American guys are spitting game, they use the multiverse game? The multiverse game? I mean, I would ask girls out in the year 2000. I didn't know anything about multiverse game. But anyway, it's an interesting line. Okay, so thank you to Jethro. He found the Bog song. Jones Wave, Bog Pill. That's it. You, Jethro, you get a free book. So you can pick whether you want. You probably have Esoteric Hollywood, but if you want one of the other books, you get a free book. Hit me up on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Here we go. This is straight up Island of Dr. Moreau right here, baby. Y'all ready for this?
satanic. Putting about a project they were on in England once, and I never told the story on air because it's so fantastic. Oh, God. They had in tanks people with gills and their little babies and they're just gulping, clawing at the sides. You see a turtle at the zoo that looks out to feel for it. They got humanoids, frosted fish and stuff. I mean, we are screwed, people. And behind it are mad scientists in the Hall of the Mountain King just doing God knows what, super weapons, antimatter bombs, black holes, huge cyclotrons. Those are satanic rituals. Detonating hundreds of high-powered hydrogen bombs in the 1960s in the upper atmosphere to see if they could detonate the Earth's atmosphere and blow holes in the Van Allen radiation belt is so satanic. Splicing little babies with fish is satanic. Putting fry-ons and all this garbage in our food is satanic. You think real Satanists go and just sit there and have sex with some hot chick on a black altar? That's how they get the low-level people in. Real Satanism is about murdering the trash and all you stinking Satanists.
By the way, I'm about to buy the DLX. What's it called? DLX Flex. I can't remember anything today. Too much. Bog Wave. That's going to be the first song I mix, by the way, when I get my DJ thingamajig, my turntables. That's the first song that's going to get mixed on my turntable, guaranteed, right there. I'm buying what Hannah has, but not Hannah's setup. So whatever she has in this thing right here. I'm buying that, but not that. That's an older silver model. I'm buying a newer model. But I forgot the make and model of the one I'm getting. Anyway, the first song to be mixed will be the Bog song. I guarantee you. That'll be a treat for y'all. Anyway. So, yeah, thank you so much, Jethro, for finding that. It was driving me crazy. Shout out to you for finding it. Okay, back to the beach. We're way off topic now. I'm going crazy. Hey, Jamie, could you make me a double shot of espresso? Not espresso, espresso. Thank you very much. Very much, Lee. Okay. So Leo is spitting that multiverse game, which I've never heard of. Never heard of multiverse game. Even though the French chick says all American dudes spit multiverse game. Well known. Well known. Multiverse game. So the line is, when you look in a telescope, you say to the girl, you ever think about how there's probably a multiverse out there, another world of me and you looking down at us? She's like, every American spits that line. Literally never heard that line. I don't know, but apparently, however, this line actually works. So it's single dudes out there. Here you go. Try the multiverse game. Thank you, babe. Appreciate it. You could spit that multiverse game. Jamie, would you if you were single, if a man spit that multiverse game to you like Leo did, would you say that the French chick says, every Americans, this is the line of every American man? What would you say?
Same thing.
You would say every American man spits the multiverse line?
Yeah. Or ask him what his favorite spider is.
Jamie said she would ask Leo what his favorite spider is. That was a perfect reply. See, you're a natural stand-up. There you go. That's a reference to Jamie's controversial tweet of the month a while back. Anyway, thank you for those trickle down economics super chats that y'all sent right there. Appreciate that. Now, back to Leo. If we don't get back on track, we'll never get this done. So Leo decides he's going to run off with these three, and they decide, all right, well, we drove 500 miles, but we got to swim a damn lake, the length of a lake, to get to this place. So there's the island, and they just jump in, go for it. Now, when they land there, lo and behold, it's a damn weed island. This is like Spliff Central, right? This is the dank tank. You talking about the Shark Tank? This is the dank tank right here. Okay, you feel me right now? And there's a cartel, and it turned out that Leo stumbles upon a symbiotic relationship between a bunch of dumb hippies, an intentional community of yoga chicks from Instagram, before Instagram, run by Tilda Swinton, who plays like the perfect, she's like Teal Swan basically, right? I feel like you're intended for my intentional community, but that you're in opposition to me, and I'm gonna have you put to death because you're in opposition to me. Remember when we covered Teal Swan's documentary, and her Teal Swan literally does this. Like, she has an island people come to, she baptizes them into her Teal Swan cult. It says a bunch of crazy new age hippie girl stuff. All right, well, that's Tilda Swinton right here. She literally, I mean, Teal Swan must have watched this movie and be like, that's what I'm doing right there. I'm setting up a damn weed cult on the dank stank island, and I'm gonna recruit a bunch of idiots from Instagram and social media to come pay me $4,000 to be baptized on Treasure Island. I mean, literally, baptized on Treasure Island. Okay, so the rule is that the cartel growing the weed allows the hippies to live there, but the hippies can't tell anybody about Dank Stank Island, right? The real Treasure Island. Well, as you can imagine, Daffy ruined that, because Daffy told Leo about the island, and Leo bragged to his surfer buddies that there is a Dank Stank Island. So now the surfer buddies are going to come for it. But when Leo gets there, he assures Tilda Swinton, I didn't tell anybody, I promise. Nobody will ever find this place. Of course they will. So they built basically Tristan's intentional community. Right? Tristan's got a little intentional community down in Ecuador, basically the same as this. Where I'm watching this, I'm watching Mosquito Coast, and I'm like, did Tristan watch this? Let's see what happens next. Now, and you know what's funny about in these kind of movies, these intentional communities of the hippies that try to set up these kind of sustainable, like, it's always a disaster, because everybody wants to hump everybody else. There's no order, even though they say that there's a kind of an order. The free love ends up being the downfall, right? And you can imagine that happens here, because yes, Tilda Swinton decides she wants a little piece of Leo. Well, that makes the French girl jealous, and then there's all this drama between them. Long story short, somebody gets bit by a shark. The Swedish dudes get bit by sharks. Now people starting to die. And the cult has this, pseudo cult has this idea, like basically exiling people that are going to die. So here's where it gets crazy. And this is what I loved. I actually like this a lot about this movie. I mean, it's not my favorite. It's not anywhere near like the top 20 favorite. But I liked this movie. And because it starts to go in this crazy direction is what made me like it. First half of it, I'm like, okay, so Leo is trying to get laid at some intentional hippie communion. I mean, so what? It's not that great. But then it turns crazy, bro. It goes cray-cray. Leo falls out with Tilda Swinton. And he ruins... He already has macked on the French chick. She likes him. And the French dude was cucked about it. He's like, you can... I do not want to get in the way of your happiness. You can be together with her. I don't care. So, he's got anything he wants. But, here's the crazy part. Leo loves video games. He brought his Game Boy to this island. And he's always playing video games because there's all this downtime. There's no work, really, except, I don't know, cutting down the weed and rolling spliffs, I guess, is the only work here. You don't have to work, I don't guess. And so Leo starts losing it. Leo decides that he's living in a video game and that it's the hippies that are the invaders of the island. So Leo has like a full-on schizoid breakdown and turns into frickin' Colonel Kurtz. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't exactly remember why Leo loses it. There's something, but maybe it's because it's been a year since I've watched this. I mean, I've still got on my notes and stuff. I remember it very well, but something just triggers the crap out of Leo. And he goes full, like, Vietnam vet, like, Boomer Garcia crazy. And he straps up, puts on a damn... I mean, he's Colonel Kurtz. He goes full Kurtz. Never go full Kurtz. He decides humans are the cancer that multiply. He decides he's going to have a great reset and purge and cleanse the island. I'm not kidding. He dissociates. Imagines himself as a Vietnam Phoenix program assassin, which is weird because Leo would have no knowledge of this. He's like a 19-year-old video game surfer dude, right? Pot smoking surfer dude. It's almost like when he dissociates as if he's under the tutelage of Daffy. So then we start wondering, and I don't know if the novel goes in this direction because I haven't read it. Like, was Leo brought to this island, and was Daffy like his handler to cause all of this? I mean, why is he seeing Daffy in his dissociative states? And why is he suddenly indoctrinated into this Malthusian idea that he has to cleanse the island in a year zero great reset? By the way, again, Daffy is intentionally, by the way, a Disney reference because when Daffy creates the map to get to the island, he draws Daffy Duck as his signature. So Leo has all these dissociative fantasies of being a Vietnam Phoenix program assassin, basically. He does mercy killings on the Swedish guys that got bit by sharks because he thinks that's the best way to save them. In this dissociative state, he builds all these traps on the island. So he's like Dolph Lundgren. Remember is it Universal Soldier? When Dolph's got that ear necklace. Them ear necklaces is fashionable, you know what I mean? We'll get Jamie an ear necklace. That's a Gucci ear necklace. That's a Gucci ear necklace. There it is right here. Here's Dolph with his ear necklaces because he went crazy from the Phoenix program. By the way, I'm going to do a Van Damme stream. Van Damme it, I'm going to do a stream, I promise. It's going to be Bloodsport, Time Cop, Universal Soldier, and a couple more fun Van Damme it movies. So here's Dolph coming out with it when he's lost it. Where's his ear necklace? Anyway, the whole point of this movie is just the ear necklace. You know they based him on Colonel Kurtz too, right? Am I wrong? Is it not Universal Soldier where he has the ear necklace? Some of y'all movie nerds can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm all ears. It's got to be, right? Because he's making an ear joke. Yeah, here it is. So Dolph has lost it Phoenix program style, and he's made an ear necklace. You can't hear me? Y'all can hear me, can't you? What do you mean you can't hear me? Sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, ha ha ha. It's not kickboxer. Oh, you want me to do kickboxer? Yeah, I'll find one. I mean, there's so many. The Death Warrant, double whatever, where there's 2 Van Dams. I don't know if I can Van Dam it. I don't know if I can stand 2 Van Dams for the price of 1. Anyway, so there's a Lord of the Flies element going on, obviously, in the beach. It has pretty obvious references to all of the previous Island Lit. And there's this contrast, obviously, with technology and supposedly going into a pure state of nature. We'll talk about that a little bit, too, when we get to Lord of the Flies, because pure state of nature, this idea of the Enlightenment philosophers, when we talk about John Locke or Rousseau, this idea that there was, in some time past, this sort of, it's a thought experiment. They don't necessarily think that there had to be a pure state of nature to create the social contract, right? Could we have a pure state of nature where the noble savage and the society comes together to form government, right? This is the new Enlightenment theory of government, that it is the social contract of the indigenous tribal people creating government. That is not, obviously, the biblical Genesis view. So the Enlightenment proposes a rival idea of the origin of the state itself, contrary to what was the prevalent biblical story and the idea of divine right of kings and monarchy and all that. Well, so if monarchy, divine right of kings is not true, what is true? Enlightenment philosophers said, there was this pure state of nature, noble savages. That's a later Margaret Mead construct, by the way, which was debunked. That was all made up. She was exposed as a fraud. And should be obvious, because humans are humans anywhere. There's no pure noble savages that don't have the same temptations as every other human society. It's just obviously made up. But it was used for propaganda, right? It's still used. I mean, boomers believe in this, archaic revival, primitivist type stuff from the 1960s counterculture. So they were pushing Margaret Mead and Gregory Bateson, who was an MK Ultra doctor, right? They were pushing in the 1960s this idea of return to nature, dude, archaic revival, primitivism, man. And there's nothing wrong with that per se, because people homestead, they go back to nature, that's all fine. But it's used to push people into now the green agenda, the sustainability, all that. That's what the hippie stuff was, the gateway drug into the corporate control, which is ironic because the 60s counterculture, we gotta fight the corporate man. And then now they all literally are the corporate man. Literally. Like, you go on Pink Floyd's Twitter and it's whatever the latest establishment thing is. Rainbows, Ukraine flags, right? Well, hey, boomers, I thought you were anti-establishment. You're literally welcome, my son, to the machine. You're literally the machine, dude. What are you talking about? Bunch of stupid boomer sellouts. Anyway, there is no noble savage thing. Now, it's true that certain tribes or groups of people could be less or more degenerate. That's true, right? Paul says in Romans 1 and 2 that the pagans have the law of nature, the law of God on their heart, and not everybody is equally as wicked, right? Some of the tribes were cannibal tribes. I'm taking all pagan tribes, right? But not all of them are pagans. So not everybody's as wicked as everybody. But point being, the theme is that these intentional communist, quasi-communist hippie communities, they don't tend to work. And I've not ever experienced much of this, but I mean, I've met many people over the years who have experienced or tried to experiment with those types of alternative lifestyle communities, and they always seem to be big failures. Right? It's always just a bunch of greasy old boomers trying to sleep with like 20-year-old yoga chicks. That's all it is, right? So that doesn't last. It doesn't seem like that's going to last very long. And also, people want their own space, especially as you get to be like in your 30s and 40s. What sounded really fun when you're 20 does not sound fun anymore. Now I want my own bathroom. Okay, I don't want to share a freaking shower with 20 people.
You're just bound by your attachment to corporate consumerist society, man.
Okay, I am. You got me. Guilty as charged. I want a shower. I want a bathtub. I take baths. I don't take showers, first of all. Now, there's an interesting end sequence where, as the film comes to a close, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, it is a pretty good movie. Leo comes back. He snaps back into reality when his hippie surfer friends actually also found their way to the island. And he sees them mowed down by the cartel. And this snaps him out of this dissociative state. He runs and gets the French girl. I can't remember if he escapes with her. I think they do. Basically, they do escape. And then a momentous piece of 1990s and early 2000s culture. You may remember it. The Internet Cafe. Do you remember the Internet Cafe? For those young'uns out there who don't recall, there was a time when the internet was not everywhere. If you wanted to get on the internet, if you didn't have the internet, you had to go to Internet Cafe, which is basically Starbucks before Starbucks that had all of these gigantic ass monitor computers, and you would have to sign up for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Usually it was limited to get on the Internet Cafe. By the way, there are still Internet Cafes. In some places in Europe, and I was in some small town not too long ago, and I was like, they have an Internet Cafe here? That still exists? But yes, everybody from the 90s and the 2000s remembers Internet Cafes. So the film ends with Leo, I guess he's sending an email to her, or getting an email from what's-her-face? And it's this stupid picture that they took on the island. And it has the line from the game he spit to her, Parallel Universe. So the irony is that basically their experience there for that year or however long they're on the island was like living in a parallel universe. Interesting film. Especially the unexpected, again, dissociation Phoenix program mind control sequence. That was wild. All right, next film. This was an 80s movie that many people have forgotten. I watched it when I was in high school, and a lot of it, like I said, I didn't get. It's got some interesting symbolism in it. If you've not seen it, I recommend it. I guess they're going to try to remake it into a series on Apple. Haven't watched that. No idea if that's any good. But the film stars Harrison Ford with like pure raw 80s dad energy. I mean, he's like straight up dad core to the max. Everything about him, I mean, it reminds me of my dad in the 1980s. My dad literally looks and dressed and acted like Harrison Ford in this movie in the 1980s. I'm like, is this my dad? Was he in this movie? What the heck? Okay. And Harrison is an inventor. He is a genius inventor who has many patents for these sort of wacky, bizarre inventions. And they mention throughout the film multiple times what his inventions are. It's weird stuff. Just like he invented a mop that you dance with that mops the floor automatically while you dance with it. Was he watching Sorcerer's Apprentice or, Mickey or whatever? I mean, they don't explain it. It's just mentioned. And no, I haven't read this, but I think this was a book too. I haven't read it. Well, he's very unhappy with the state of America. And some odd sort of predictive elements here. He actually is worried about mass immigration in the 80s. which is interesting because we don't think about that as a hot button topic in the 1980s. But Harrison Ford says, you know what? I forget his name. His name's Al or Allie or something like that. He says, look, all of the cities are going to collapse. America will collapse. It is in the process of collapsing. And the immigrants in the big cities are going to cause a collapse. Wow. In fact, he says, I am the last man. So you're watching this and you're like, so wait a minute, is he, because he's like, he kind of sounds communist at one point, right? Because he's like, they're driving around the very beginning and he's telling his son, River Phoenix, he says, look at all this consumerist crap everywhere. He's like, this is destroying everything. He's like, there's no beauty. And he's actually right. It's all billboards and McDonald's and gas station crap everywhere. It looks terrible. And he's like, this is destroying the country. And so is the open borders policy. So then you're like, well, now, wait a minute. So he sounds communist at first because he doesn't want free markets. But then he sounds like a libertarian because he wants to be the last man who can be this sort of, John Galt kind of character. But then he sounds like he's full-on communist, because then he's like, no, we need to get away from all of this and live in an indigenous, small, localized community. So it's like he's all over the place. And you're trying to figure out, okay, where's he really coming from? Is he far right? Because then he started talking about the open borders and the illegal immigrants are going to destroy the country. So, by the way, his wife is Helen Mirren, which is interesting because this is not the role you would expect her to be in. But he's tasked with working on a farm by this old farmer to create a cooling system for asparagus, which is nasty to begin with. And instead of creating the cooling system, he invents an ice machine. But it's like a super duper ice machine. It's like a slushy machine that you light a match and it basically creates immediate ice, which is kind of cool, I guess, but it's just weird. It's a bizarre invention. But in his mind, this is the key to all civilization. So he gets the idea when he's talking to all these migrant workers who work on the farm. He's like, why did you come here? And they're like, we came for a better life. We come from Nicaragua, man. And we come for a better life here in America. And he's like, you came to the wrong place. You should have stayed there. And he's like, tell me where you're from. So Harrison Ford takes all the savings, I guess, from his inventions. And he flies to Mosquito Coast, which, by the way, sounds like the absolute worst place to move. What, if you're looking for a beach, the one that's called Mosquito Coast is the worst one. Do not go there. And by the way, it turns out Mosquito was actually a country, small country for many years, with kings and queens. And I was looking this up because I didn't know anything about this. The kings and queens of Mosquito, they all have like weird Anglo names. So I guess this is because they were fought over by the Spanish and the British, right? This Mosquito Nation, para the Mosquito Nation, the blood-sucking nation. Look at that coat of arms is like drips of blood and blood being sucked out of it. Even their coat of arms tells you the truth. This is Mosquito Coast, dude. You better be prepared. You better have some bug spray on hand, on tap. But look at the names of the kings and the queens. Watch this. This is crazy. Mosquito. King. Old man. The last king, the first known king was named Old Man. The next one was called Robert Clarence. George Frederick. Hereditary chief, Robert Clarence. That doesn't sound very indigenous. I just thought that was funny. Like all of the kings are like have these weird British names. Old Man. Old Man was the king of the Mosquito Nation. His son was Jeremy. Jeremy spoken yesterday. Jeremy. Look at all that blood on the coat of arms, dude. You know that's what the mosquitoes is. That's the meaning of that. It's mosquitoes, dude. Anyway, So Mosquito Coast is real. It was a nation at one point before becoming part of Honduras or Nicaragua or whatever. And so Harrison Ford says, "All right, we're going to move out there." And here's the weird part. This is where we begin to notice some of the problems in this family dynamic, because Helen Mirren puts up absolutely no resistance to leaving a perfectly fine functioning farm to go live in mosquito-infested third world Honduras. Okay, so, by the way, Tristan had to have watched this. Tristan watched this movie and was like, that's what we're doing. He was tripping acid or something, and he saw this movie and was like, that's what we're doing. I'm joking, by the way. So they get down there to Nicaragua, or wherever they're at, and Harrison Ford buys a village. Okay, so I guess we're like super capitalist now because he's bought his own sovereign libertarian village. So there has to be a kind of Ayn Rand, John Galt influence here. It's got to be, right? And he decides, by the way, the more I think about it, this is totally Ayn Rand influence. It's got to be. Now, I'm not saying that it's correct, because the book doesn't actually tell you. Well, I don't know what the book says. The movie does not give us the impression that Harrison Ford's decisions are ultimately the right decisions, because he goes nuts. Okay. But it seems like he's got definitely the John Galt vision here, because he's an engineer, he's an inventor. He wants to create his own Galt's Gulch libertarian utopian community down here. And even though it's not technically an island, it might as well be an island. It still fits. He's a contradictory person. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's what makes him in many ways an interesting character. Because on the one hand, he's anti-consumerist, he's anti-corporate, he wants to expatriate. But he literally talks about his inventions as living beings and as human beings. That's the weird part, right? So he's like, crazy white dad problems, exactly. He's like, this is my baby, it's my boy. And he opens up his weird slushy maker, which he thinks is like the greatest invention ever. And it's like, here's the guts. This is the poop shaft. This, I'm not joking. This is the heart. This is the lungs. Like, so his machine is a person, a son to him. And he almost neglects his actual, he abuses and neglects his actual children because he worships this stupid ass slushy machine. I'm not joking. It's like literally a giant slushy machine. And so when he goes down there, he gets this idea that the noble savages are going to love him and worship him as a beneficent leader, ruler, God figure, because he will bring them ice, because ice is the peak of civilization, because then they can have slushies and they can keep their food. I mean, I guess ice is pretty important for civilization, even though civilization precedes the creation of ice machines. And for a while, things seem to be working out okay. They build an entire village, an entire structure, this self-sustaining community down there, much like Tilda Swinton's Teal Swan community. And then, this is the weird, but like, did he not think there might be rival communities? He didn't plan for cartels? So he's a genius, but he's also out of touch with reality. And this is, I think, is much like many sort of genius characters and savants, is that they're totally divorced from reality. And that's the irony, the contradiction of this character, is all of the criticisms that he makes, they're criticisms also of what he's doing. That's the weird part. So he hates consumerism, he hates American corporate structure and all this kind of stuff. He thinks he's the last man, and he constantly derides anyone who wants convenience, and yet he's making a machine that is a convenience machine. So he's a living contradiction. And I guess that's what makes him an interesting, fascinating character study on many levels. And there's this sort of stupid naivety about civilizations and other people groups, by the way, because he thinks that when he brings ice to the villagers, they're going to see him as a god figure. And they kind of do for a little bit, but he doesn't even plan for cartels and rival groups coming and taking his giant slushy machine. And literally like 3 cartel dudes show up and they're like, "Hey dude, hey, we kind of like your big slushy machine, bro. How about we fucking take it, man? And we got the weapons. What are you gonna do, dude?" Like, he didn't think to bring weapons to defend his giant slushy machine? You think I'm joking about it being a giant... No, it actually produces a giant pile of slushy. But he didn't even think to bring flavors. Anyway. So it's like, when I was a kid, I had a Snoopy snow cone machine. And basically, Harrison Ford just made that on a bigger scale. But it does the same shit. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. Does anybody else remember a Snoopy snow cone machine? Oh, here's the instructions how to do it. Yeah, here it is. So, I remember I got this probably for a birthday or something when I was like 5 or 4. And I'm like, Harrison Ford, man, he's kind of got a little bit of a grift going, because this, like, I mean, dude, we already had ice makers and snow cone machines, and you just made basically like a 3-story one. That's it, right? Remember this?
Machine you put ice cubes in and get a snow cone out. This is fun. Yum yum fun is what it's all about.
Some assembly required, and you mix the punch flavor.
Hey, yummy Snoopy. It's yum yum fun that is cool and yummy. And it's
Well, I guess to be fair, the Snoopy snow cone machine requires already existing ice. But for all intents and purposes, that's basically what he's invented. And that's it right there. And the weird thing is that it's also treated like a giant deity, right? They show these sequences that are shot really well, where it's like the jungle and this giant monolith, right? It's very 2001 monolith-esque, this big machine here. Now, to contrast against him, it's not just the outsider cartel dudes that show up to take over the Snoopy snow cone machine. There's also a missionary who accompanied them down there because he has a separate village that he's like a weird Protestant TV preacher, right? And initially you think he's going to be the villain. And I like that about the film, was that, you know, you're thinking that, oh, you know, Harrison Ford is going to represent science and reason, and he does. He's science and reason. The goofy TV preacher man represents irrationality, fear, superstition. And when the missionary comes over to Harrison Ford's personal private village, he says, you know, can we invite people to church? And, you know, we would like to get you to come to services and blah, 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 blah. And Harrison Ford basically is like, get out of here. Screw you. Get out. So there's an interesting conversation about the contrast between science and religion here, because Harrison Ford says, I mean, at times he sounds like an atheist, and then other times he's like, if there's a God or whatever God there is, he basically left the world for man to perfect. So he kind of has this deist Freemasonic idea of some kind of deity, but it's man's job to be God on earth, basically. Which again harkens to a sort of Ayn Randian John Galt type of situation. And he says, you are a grifter, you're a deceiver, and he basically runs off the preacher. So he's pretty much an atheist. He worships his creations, his technology. He's a quasi-utopian idealist, but he never thought to have guns. It's just really weird. He never thought to have a defense, which suggests, again, that although he's a savant, genius, Spurg nerd, he's divorced from reality because he didn't realize that, like, the cartel next door will come take your slushy machine. It's just like, I'm watching this, like, did he not think of that? Anyway. Well, he's convinced, this is another interesting element, as a boomer of this boomer era, that America won't just descend into chaos through immigration. He, unfortunately, is heavily propagandized into the nuclear war baloney of the Cold War. At any moment, the Soviets are going to nuke America. So he's bought into all of that, which is part of what led him to think that they have to flee North America because it's going to be nuked at any moment. Remember, this is still This is 86, so this is still ongoing Cold War. But of course, that was not true. We were not going to be literally nuked at any moment. That was a lot of propaganda, a lot of fear, a lot of psyop. And so, for all of his intelligence and savant savviness with tech, he fell for pretty low-tier propaganda. So, in other words, you'll notice in this movie another cautionary element that many of us would overlook. Even today, many people think that really what's needed to run society is IQ. Oh, we just need really smart people. If we just let the geniuses run everything, managerial society. Well, if we get the highest IQ people running stuff, then everything would work and we'd be flying to Mars. Never understanding that you can't just run a society on IQ. Perfect example. High IQ Spurgs half the time are insane. Like this dude. And what's the problem here? It's not that he's not smart. He's a genius. The problem is that he's an insane idealist who lives in his mind in an ideal world, divorced from reality. And like every revolutionary before him, whether it's the communists or whether it's some free market libertarian revolutionary, the assumption is that I will force the world to believe and operate on my ideal system, contrary to the real. But this never works. And it always leads to chaos and destruction. And from the moment they arrive, and even perhaps when he has the confrontation with his boss on the farm at the very beginning, you begin to suspect that this is not going to go well. And when you go back and watch it, you begin to notice, there were indicators from the very beginning that this was just a disaster waiting to happen, right? And the movie is really well done, though, because it gradually builds. The disaster gradually builds. Eventually, the warnings of the preacher actually come to pass. That was the thing that you don't expect about this movie. You think, again, the preacher is just completely ridiculous. He's a big-haired idiot TV preacher. He's got to be the scammer, right? He's got to be the crazy one. And even though he didn't plan this, he sent flyers to Mosquito Coast village. It's called Geronimo. I don't know why they named it Geronimo, but Harrison Ford, it's named Geronimo, this village that he bought. He sends flyers warning them of an apocalyptic destruction and disaster of the city, the village of Geronimo. And of course, Harrison Ford says, don't listen to this idiot. He's crazy or whatever. But lo and behold, it all comes to pass because the cartel guys are tricked into going inside of the slushy machine. And this was Harrison Ford's ingenious plot to kill them, is to get them to go inside the beast, as it's called. I think they call it a beast at one point. So he tricks the cartel guys to go inside the beast. He traps them in there, and he's going to freeze them out in his giant freezer. This backfires. The cartel guys start machine gunning the thing, and it blows up in a gigantic apocalyptic destruction. This causes Harrison Ford to snap. Much like Leo snapped in The Beach, Daddy Ford snaps, and it starts getting crazier and crazier. Then Harrison Ford decides, no, the problem wasn't my insanity. The problem was that we wanted any society in technology at all. So now he becomes full-on hippie, boomer, sustainable. What's the word I'm looking for? Who's the group of people that hated all technology in Britain, the 1800s? They smashed the textile factories. I'm going blank on those people. He goes full. Somebody will know in the chat the word I'm looking for. One of my advisors, my grad advisor, that awful dude, he was an expert he was the world's authority in these goofballs that hated technology. He's smoking that ice. Luddite, thank you. He goes full Luddite. He's like, you know what? The problem isn't humans, it's he says it's society and so he goes full Rousseau Luddite. It's like it's society and any tech. So then they decide they're going to live off of the damn trash that washes up on the beach. Now, this becomes the point where it's like, first of all, dude, Helen Mirren should have, like, long ago been like, nah, dude, this is crazy. Like, why did she never have any opposition to this lunatic? I mean, I understand, like, okay, she didn't want to lose her family, so she's going to go to Mosquito Coast. And that situation seemed like it was going to work. But now that Mosquito Coast blew up, and now that Harrison Ford has obviously snapped, she fails as a mother because it's her duty to protect her children. Because Harrison Ford is like making up crazy stuff. He's like, it wasn't my machine that blew up. America was nuked. Like, he makes up this crazy story that actually America was nuked and there is no America to go back to. And they're going to live in a damn hut and live off of trash that washes up on the beach. Literally. And I think this scene was good because this is the point where she also fails. She should have stood up to him. She should have said, dude, you're out of it. You're crazy. But she never does. Until the very, very end. And even then, she doesn't actually stand up to him because as he's passing away, spoiler alert, he gets shot by the preacher. I mean, Harrison Ford just totally goes insane. He burns down the church because he actually blames the church and the preacher for his Gulch getting nuked. Like, he somehow blames God for this, right? So, amazing twist where actually Science Man was the lunatic mad scientist who lost it. The preacher was, he's a goofy, but he actually wasn't malicious like you thought. So I like this twist. Very complex characters, very complex motivations, contradictory characters, which makes for a good story. Everybody has their flaws, their weaknesses. There's also an interesting relationship between Harrison Ford and his kids, particularly River Phoenix, where the kids then have to figure out, like, is there a point where I have to stand up to dad? Right? Like, he's going insane. Is this an allegory on a large scale for the Western white man's desire to worship his technology, like Oswald Spengler talked about? Faustian Western man. So anyway, I haven't read this book, but it's fascinating. And ultimately, Harrison Ford kind of ends up being like an antichrist figure in this movie, which you don't expect, right? Jamie said he's an ICE missionary. I mean, he kind of is, right? Because the missionaries are there to spread the Bible and the gospel. He's there to spread science and tech to, like, these, 80 IQ villagers who they're like, okay, ICE, that's interesting. Thank you. But now what? Anyway, a lot of stuff going on. What did you guys think? Have you guys seen Mosquito Coast? What do you guys think about it? Yeah, he was a scientist, and he ended up basically suffering for it. If you want to support the stream, you can do so via Super Chats. Super Chats are through Streamlabs. The Streamlabs is linked right there. Anybody want to sign up to be an ICE missionary to down in Ecuador or Nicaragua, Honduras? A couple words, as we said, on Island of Dr. Moreau. I mean, the movie, wow. If you're looking for a movie that is so bad that it's actually really good, I do recommend the Island of Dr. Moreau. Now, I don't mean the old one. I don't know if I've ever seen the old one. I'm talking about, freaking 1990s. What year did that come out? I'm talking about Marlon Brando, like, on the rocks, baby. That's what I'm talking about. And when you watch the movie, even though it's a terrible movie, I mean, it's just awful, but it's awfully fun. they make it very clear that Dr. Moreau is like, he's got a total God complex. So it is explicitly parroting the creation. And Wells, in Freemasonic Gnostic fashion, is basically saying the creator God is this insane powdered donut Marlon Brando figure. All right, that's what he's arguing. I mean, it's blasphemous, but that's what he's saying. And it's like, well, why is he saying that? Well, because look at the world, right? If you believe in evolution and if you believe in some sort of deistic, Gnostic creation, this world is a failure. The creator God has created all these mutants. There's death. There's failure, right? Predator, prey, brutality. There's these, retorted slow boy mutant men running around the island. Basically, H.G. Wells is saying that this is humans. Okay? And shout out to Val Kilmer in this. It's funny. I mean, it's like so bad. It's awesome. I'm trying to find a picture of. Here he is. Now they said I was reading about this movie. They said that like Marlon Brando in this movie was literally being himself. Like he was this insane in the movie. Like he showed up on set wearing this and acting this way because he was that. Like this is not the character, this is him. And they said this he was so insane by this point that they almost couldn't make this movie. And I think a lot of the people in the movie blamed him for this movie being a failure because he was just so insane. But if you watch this movie, you'd be like, whoa. Now, the book is really good. I mean, just from a literary perspective. I hate H.G. Wells. He's awful. But the book is about, let's say, what it's referencing in reality is testing, human experimentation, which is real. Science ethics, the violation of ethics in science. Rewiring the brain through the environment and through experimentation. Transhumanism is what this book is about. Yes. And even MK Ultra, which comes up in the introductory note, believe it or not. So there's an introductory essay in my copy that's actually really good, written by some woman that's like some Obama appointed woman, Nita Farahani. And she talks about all of the real cases of unethical human experimentation that really happened. I don't know. She may not use the term MK Ultra, but basically that's what she's talking about. And another thing, that the notion of the plasticity of the human brain and that you could change it physically was something that H.G. Wells was way ahead of time with. Oh, she's the woman from the Salk Institute. That's right. So the introductory essay is written by a woman from the friggin' Salk Institute saying how, basically everything in this book is real from 1896. That's crazy, dude. That's why we're always talking about H.G. Wells over here. Right? But in this story, the island is a allegory not just for the world, but the fallen world and an evil creator god, Yaldabaoth, the Gnostic creator god. And that's who crazy Marlon Brando is supposed to be right there. I think I wrote, like, there's some chapters where they're literally like debating Illuminist philosophy and principles. This is chapter 16, which, I mean, H.G. Wells is Fabian socialist, literal Illuminati, right? Like he's high level Freemason, full on Fabian socialist, New World Order, right, everything. And if you read chapter 16, you can read all of that. Yeah. Basically, the world is a gigantic, mechanistic, deterministic, blind machine. It is man's job to work to be the priests of science, to steer and control evolution. And that's because if there is a God, it's, as H.G. Wells says, it's a Luciferian unknowable deity. By the way, people don't know that we showed that in our analysis Jamie did of God the Invisible King, right? Well, that's the book H.G. Wells wrote, which hardly anybody knows about that book, but where he says, well, you might think I'm an atheist. No, I'm a believer in Lucifer, literally. And if you read chapter 16, you will find that out very clearly. Anyway, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. I wrote a whole essay, if you want to read my full breakdown. I think it's in... I don't remember where. It's on the website. I can't remember which book it's in, but I wrote a whole essay on this book. All right, Lost. Lost. Remember Lost? I won't spend too much time on Lost, only because there are nerds that go crazy with this show. I mean, they spend hours and hours and hours decoding it. I'm not going to do all that. I will give you kind of the in brief breakdown of what seems to be going on in Lost. Now, I enjoyed Lost when it came out. I didn't initially think I would care about it. As you guys probably know, if you follow my material, this is J.J. Abrams' show, and we know J.J. Abrams, before Lost, worked on a show which the CIA explicitly consulted on, Alias, with Jennifer Garner. Now, Jamie and I did a whole Alias breakdown. If you didn't see that, go watch our Alias breakdown. But it is public, academic, scholarly, sourced information that the CIA consulted on the entire show of Alias. I don't know that about this because Lost is Lindelof and Hughes are the main story creator, writer guys. J.J. Abrams directing and whatnot. And what I liked about Lost from the outset was, and I think I was doing grad school when this came out. So I'm doing like grad lit studies right around this time. Or I was finishing undergrad, I don't remember. But I started watching, and like they're referencing all this literature everywhere. This was really unexpected. Because, yeah, in theater and in novels, you get tons and tons of other literary references. But for a mainline ABC or whatever show this was, to be constantly dropping pretty high-tier literary references was odd. It was not unexpected, right? I mean, we're watching it, and right away, we're like, they're referencing James Joyce. We're like, what? So, and I remember at the time, I can't believe this blog still exists, but there was a guy who was blogging about this at the time. Hey, let's Lost nerds collect all the references to literature. And so people were doing this because they thought that if you were familiar with the canon of Western literature of Lost, you might be able to decode some of the meaning of the series, because everybody was really enveloped in this at the time. It was like the last time that I remember like a super popular TV show that everybody was involved in or interested in. I mean, maybe there's been something like that, like Breaking Bad, maybe. But, I mean, this was like the last, Breaking Bad-ish phenomena for television that I can recall, right? Because it was before everything went to internet. Why is this doing this? It's getting on my nerves. Right. Before everything was streaming, a lot of people were still watching network shows. And it really was a phenomenon. I mean, people were just going crazy over this show. And everybody was going to play decoder, right? And what, again, actually got me interested was all of this esoteric stuff they started piling on. And I was super into it. Of course, yes, I watched all of Lost at the time. I did not go back and rewatch all of Lost. But right away, so we start to see, okay, they're referencing Alice in Wonderland, which, by the way, we just recently covered both Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, both of which come up in the show. I've not yet read Heart of Darkness. It's going to be what I did next. We're doing Lord of the Flies right now. Watership Down, I never could get into. I've tried multiple times starting it. I always end up falling asleep. I love Wrinkle in Time. I grew up reading that. And Jamie and I just covered the horrible Oprah version of Wrinkle in Time. But now season 2, it gets a little more sophisticated, because now it's Brothers Karamazov comes up, Epic of Gilgamesh comes up, I have Aldous Huxley's Island. I've not read that. I think that's Huxley's Island is like the next stage of Brave New World, because Brave New World is the dystopia, but they mention this place where people who opt out of Brave New World go, and they go to the island, and again, which is like a brave, like a Galt's Gulch sort of libertarian safe space in the dystopia. So I've not read that yet, but I do eventually want to read that. I've not read Percy Walker, whatever. Let's see. Turn of the Screw. I hated that. Everybody who does lit has to read that. I don't understand what people like. What is so like? There's nothing scary about it. It was super boring. I mean, maybe it's supposed to be something well written. I thought it was just awful. Like, just super boring. Wizard of Oz, I do like. And then we start bringing in the weird, goofy science physics stuff, which is what all normies think is like super. Like, what Stephen Hawking and multiverse, dude? Like, what if time was like bent or whatever, and you could like come out the other side of it, and then you could do like a loop, dude? Like all the shit that like dumb people think is really deep, right? Like, well, you ever thought about like predestination versus free will? And it's all because of some like Muppet in a battery-controlled RC wheelchair rolling around, right? I'm trying to remember. I think when I did a couple times back, and it pretty much bombed. I thought it was pretty funny, but I was doing an impression of Stephen Hawking and Billy Graham on Epstein Island. I thought it was pretty funny, but anyway. I guess I didn't execute it right. It could work really well as a skit, but anyway, it's the stuff that people think is deep. Now, notice there, Catch-22. A lot of people think that there might be some sort of mind control dissociation going on there with Holden. I'm not really into this. Haven't read Catch-22. Fountainhead, very familiar with that. Ayn Rand. That's when we start realizing, okay, yeah, there's definitely like breakaway civilization going on with the island. Let's see what else. I've read quite a few Stephen King things. I've not read Carrie or On Writing, so I don't know what Stephen King says about that. We just did, of course, Through the Looking Glass. I've not read Stranger in a Strange Land. I've read Moon is a Harsh Mistress. I don't think I've finished it, but it's kind of boring. Then it gets into PKD, so we're getting weirder and wilder. Narnia, definitely read that. Not read Jules Verne's Survivors of Chancellor. And then, this was the unexpected part when I was doing some research for this breakdown. Apparently, I can't remember if it was Lindelof or Hughes, was like, oh, my biggest influence is Flannery O'Connor. And that actually does come up. I remember it coming up in season 5 because at the time I was reading all of her collected works. And I think I've only got, the only thing I lack is the last half of Violent Bear It Away. And I will have read everything from Flannery O'Connor. So I've only got that last little bit of that novel, and I've read everything else. Now, we did, if you don't know, guys, a full breakdown of Wise Blood, which is a genius novella. That didn't get many views. I don't know. People just don't read books. I don't know. Though there's Charles Carroll. He reads books. But if you are not familiar with Wise Blood, I recommend it. I did not expect this to be such an influence on the writers of Lost. It does make me kind of want to go back and watch Lost again because I think a lot of stuff would make more sense. As opposed to the first time through. Because if you remember, the first time through, everybody's watching Lost and they're like paying attention to clues, but nobody could figure this out. Everybody's like, what the heck is going on in this? And I was talking to Jamie, and she's like, I never liked Lost. It was just way too confusing. I think most people felt this way. Lost was just way too confusing. However, in the time span since Lost, whenever it quit in 2012, 13, whenever it quit. I don't remember when it quit. Since then, nerds have gone back and completely just immersed themselves in decoding Lost. And it looks like, I watched a bunch of these people's analysis, so I've been through a bunch of these, and it looks like some people have actually got a pretty good handle on what's going on here. I will reference a video that I thought was really good. Some dude made a damn documentary on Lost. I'm like, I kid you not. Like, people went, like these, they're called Losties. They went nuts with this. Oh, there's a few more here. Kierkegaard, interestingly. I've read 2 Kierkegaard books. I've not read Fear and Trembling. We did an analysis of Kierkegaard's prophetic book on media. By the way, if you've never read that, that's crazy. Dude, Kierkegaard predicted mind control and mass media, social media, a long time ago. That is crazy. What is the name of that book? It's really good if you haven't read it. I'm going blank on it. It's at the other house. The present age. That's it. So, if you're wanting a really good Kierkegaard read The Present Age, which is very prophetic. And there's my breakdown if you want to go watch that. Now, what else was on the Lost list? Deep River, don't know what that is. Haven't read Salman Rushdie. I have read Notes from the Underground, that's great. My grandmother gave me The Chosen, which was a weird book for my grandmother to give me. I don't think I ever read it, but it's like, why is she giving me this like Jewish book? It's weird, but I know it's a famous lit book. I just thought it was weird that she gave me that as a present one time. I have read Carlos Castaneda, but I've not read Separate Reality. But then I heard that he might have been a Fed and that he might have also made up a bunch of bullshit. So that kind of dispelled any interest in Castaneda. But the book that I read was interesting because it was all about the shamans and their visions and stuff, and like the shamans go into another dimension. So again, that's making us think that the island is another dimension, the island is purgatory. Well, it turns out no. Everybody at the time thought they're all dead and they're in purgatory and they gotta like resolve their issues before they can move on. The show did a decent job of deflecting us from thinking that it was purgatory. Well, let me rephrase it. They had us thinking it might have been for a long time. But then they had the season 5, what's it called? Flash Sideways, which was an interesting deflection. And all the nerds who've decoded it have basically figured out, and I think this is true. The season 5, when you have the timeline where they didn't crash and everybody meets apart from the island, that is purgatory. So that's interesting. And there's some really convincing arguments to that for what's actually going on in the show. I'm going to break down the metaphysics of Lost here in a second, but I just wanted to touch a little bit on the story of what, within the story arc, what is supposed to be happening. That's apart from all the crazy metaphysics stuff, which is pretty wild. But so there is a crash. They really are on the island, and Lindelof or Hughes, one of them says the studio made a mistake of when they do the opening sequence of showing the crash wreckage. That made everybody think that they're dead. And they said that was a mistake in the opening scene because they're not dead. They do eventually die, but it's not at the beginning of the show. They die later on in the show's timeline, and the 5th season's Flash Sideways is supposed to be, I'm trying to remember how he phrased it. I don't remember if this was Lindelof or Hughes or somebody framed it as the Flash Sideways is a purgatory of sorts that they all made together because each of the characters needed to find love and human connection to move on. So in other words, they needed to find a constant. This comes up often in the show. So the 5th season is the purgatory where they are collectively creating this alternate scenario where they meet at the church to move on. So at that point, they are actually dead. And it doesn't matter about time, because whether you died in the 1970s or 300 years into the future, you come back to, you come to this construct world irregardless of what time you died. Is that confused? That's why this is confusing people. And it confused the hell out of me, and I was really into the show. But watching all of these nerds break it down, they actually did a pretty good job. Let me show you, if you're interested in this full nerd metaphysic breakdown. Let me see if I can find it. I will link it to you. I mean, this dude put some freaking time into it, by the way. This is it. This is part 1 of his Lost documentary. I mean, like, first of all, he got a whole channel devoted to Lost, which is kind of wild. But this is part 1 of his documentary on the metaphysics of Lost. It's really wild, and ultimately kind of new agey. That's another thing. I didn't expect it to be. It's like the worldview of Gaia, like the Gaia channel, which is where our TV show was, right? Like if Gaia had a worldview, it would be what's in Lost, basically. So, I mean, we're talking like 5D consciousness. We're talking about David Icke's return to source. We're talking about Cheetah Uri. We're talking about all of it, man. We're talking full Gaia David Icke worldview, dude. So anyway, if you want to watch this guy's documentary, I'll give props to this guy because he did the best. And I watched a whole bunch. This guy, I think, did the best with it. So to sum up his analysis, which I think is pretty much correct. The island is essentially the light and the energy. It's the manifestation of the light source and the energy that is God for all intents and purposes. However, this God is not a personal God. So it's kind of more like a Gnostic force that is light. And they explicitly say that every human being has a spark of this impersonal light force in them. So this is pagan, Gnostic, Kabbalistic ideas. This light is the source, much in the same sense of the way David Icke calls it source, or Neoplatonism's source. So my immediate thought was, as I'm listening to this documentary, is this is Neoplatonism and Gnosticism together. And I know that Platonists critique Gnostics, but no, we're not getting, nobody on Lost is getting that deep. But again, I mean, they're not dumb. I mean, they're obviously, the writers are very well schooled in terms of literature. I mean, they're familiar again with a lot of, famous lit here, obviously. But the themes are, let's talk about the themes before I get into the metaphysics. The themes on a basic level are the duality of good and evil, dark versus light, again, which is Gnostic. Your destiny versus free will, and that you do have free choice to play a role in that. Standard, what normies think is deep stuff. Science versus religion, right? Jack versus John Locke. The island gives you a clean slate, which is what the meaning of the references to tabula rasa and John Locke is throughout the show. It throws in, via this Stephen Hawking crap, like some of the multiverse nonsense. I think it's kind of silly that they threw in there, but this is what normies think is deep. Again, to stress, everything on the island really happened. Lindelof and Hughes made it very clear that this is not purgatory, but the flash sideways apparently is. The other thing you'll notice too is how much of this, I just realized this watching, nobody mentions this, but this is very influenced by Gunslinger. So if you've read Stephen King Gunslinger, Man in Black, portals, the island is like the for all intents and purposes, the tower, the Dark Tower. I mean, it's all the same stuff, right? The characters, from a character study perspective, they are all basically lonely, damaged people who need to work through issues. That's the whole point. It's not really about even all this crazy metaphysics stuff. That's secondary to the basic human character studies, that the characters are alone, lonely, and burdened by their past traumas and sins, and that they need to basically fix themselves. So the whole show is about these characters getting their damaged psyche fixed. That's it. All of the other stuff is ancillary to that. Jack is clearly a kind of Christ-like figure, which is odd because John Locke is the one that has faith, and Jack is the one who's like science man. So that's an odd flip there. But to get back to the metaphysics again of the island and whatnot. So the island is essentially a living entity that is a kind of conduit for this technological electrical current god, this force. None of that's ever explained. It's just sort of posited. And for whatever reason, the island is a cork to this raw power. And if you take the cork out of the island, the raw primordial Big Bang energy is let loose, and they are afraid, and they don't know what's going to happen, and they think that everything will cease to exist. Now, all of this is a very bizarre Gnostic Neoplatonic theme. Again, even the Big Bang, I think you can trace to Kabbalistic and pagan lore. It's obviously not a biblical perspective, but originally the island was some sort of volcano, and the show actually they intended to have not a cave with a cork, but a volcano. And it turns out that they are literally using ley line stuff, that there are these portals supposedly all over the earth where you can like step into the island or whatever. You can transport or whatever. Mario warp zones, basically. The hotspots are based on ley lines. They are Earth's energy vortices. Let's see what else. There's not a clear definition of good and evil. It's like light and dark, right? So the light is the good god, and the dark man in black is like the bad god. But they're not really good or evil. It's relative. The island somehow and for some reason holds back evil in the world, and it has its emissary, who is the Jacob character, a kind of angelic being. And then the smoke monster is a sort of quasi-devil being. But the light isn't God per se. It's more like the soul of the world. And it's more like a power or an energy that you can tap into to become an X-Men. So, I don't know. I'm so sick of the X-Men stuff. Every movie has to throw in this stupid plot device of X-Men bullcrap. Right? Oh, dude, like, what if we're evolving to be X-Men? Right? So, yes, unfortunately, Lost is positing that as well. That some of the characters who have psychic abilities, powers, healing, and so forth, it's because they mystically are connected to the island's light source. And they have somehow tapped into these powers. I don't know why they chose to do this. Maybe it's to make it not theistic, but the cork actually doesn't unleash demons. When the light goes out, the light and the water go away on the island, and lava pops up, and so it's kind of hellish, but it's like just lava. So the ultimate secret of Lost is just that the power is like a light source, an electrical current. The island is like a circuit board, and the protector of the island is the sort of focus or the battery. And ultimately, I think it ends up being Hurley. Doesn't Hurley? I can't remember. Does Jack or Hurley? So Hurley ends up being the protector, right? He's the next chosen protector. That's it. Again, it's not ultimately a story about all the goofy Neoplatonic Gnostic metaphysics. It's actually about characters being healed. and resolving their issues. That's it. So that's the great secret of Lost. The other thing that I critiqued it for too, when we had, spoiler alert, the great famous finale of Lost. This is everybody. Oh, everybody's gonna tune in. We're gonna have all of our questions answered at the finale of Lost, and it just kind of ended up being like, oh, you resolved your issues, and you can do that in any religion, and now you can all move on, and we all walk into the light. It was kind of lame. It was like syncretism, and it doesn't matter what religion you are, or whether you're an atheist science man, or whether you're a Buddhist, or a Hindu, or a Christian. And they've got this, like, Jack's dad is there as, like, evangelical preacher man. And, yeah, everybody just kind of walks off into the beyond, into the light. I mean, that was kind of lame. I think most people were not happy with so much build-up for such a kind of coexist sticker bro ending. Right? Anyway, so that's Lost. But you can check out that documentary by that guy if you really want to go deep into Lost. And if you want to look up the lit behind Lost, it is still at this blog, which has been around ever since Lost. Is it worth watching? It is good. It has a lot of depth, a lot of interesting things, it's a really good TV show. I just think that theologically speaking, all the build-up was kind of mediocre. So, I mean, as a show, it's really good. Really, really good. But it's just kind of a weak ending. I mean, if they had just done a better ending, it could have been one of the best shows ever. That's my take. I mean, there are some great TV shows, and I'm trying to think. What? Maybe I should rewatch Lost and reassess whether it's good, not great. That's what I would say. How's that? Now, Lord of the Flies. I'm not going to say a whole lot about the book because this is a half and a half. And when I do, significant work plumbing the depths of a classic of literature, that's going to be for the paid subscribers. So, comparing it to the film version, the 1990 version. Speaking of Alias, did you notice that's Balthazar Getty? I'm like, wait a minute. We're watching this. Now, I've watched this movie since I was a kid, so I've seen it a million times. So I'm like, he looks familiar. Is that Balthazar Getty from Alias? It is. So he grew up and became one of the side characters in Alias. And I never knew all this time that's Ralph. Okay. Peggy. Ralph and Peggy. The film version is very well done. I liked it. They updated it to make it 1980s American boys who are from a private military academy. In the novel, it's British private or public school boys, private school, whatever it is, whatever they call it over there, who have to leave because of World War II, a bombing raid or something, and so they end up stranded on the island in the 1950s. The book was written in 1954, but it takes place during World War II. So, I think the American version is really well done. I mean, very well cast. The only complaint I have is, Piggy is perfect, right? But in the novel, Jack is not a blonde kid, and they always want to make blonde, blue-eyed people the villains in every movie. I wonder why. In the book, he's an ugly red-haired kid. He's like Alfred E. Newman or something. He's the bully in Christmas Story. Is how he's portrayed in the book. He's not this like alpha blonde dude or whatever. But anyway, it's a pretty good portrayal of the book. But of course, again, as a movie, it obviously doesn't go into the depth of symbolism that the novel does. The novel is pretty deep as stories go in terms of symbolism. And what's interesting is the figure of William Golding. I couldn't find anything to do necessarily with him being intelligence. However, he was a royal officer in the Royal Navy. And there is one point where it says that he was sent to America to engage in unknown research. So he actually could have been engaged in some sort of intelligence activities. And we will find when we dig into the novel that there are quite a few, there's some pretty satanic, I'll just say satanic stuff, right? So he is in the Royal Society of Literature. He was given the Commander of the British Empire and another title, Royal Society of Literature, which is a little sus. But I'm trying to think of what... So he saw some Navy action in the 1940s. But there was something about his background that talked about him being involved in some sort of unknown research project in America. Oh, he was a devotee of Carl Jung and went and studied under, became a disciple of Carl Jung. That's it. That's what I was trying to forget. I couldn't remember that. That's it. No, I mean, there's another thing he does where he goes and studies in America in an unknown research project, which, what is that? But yes, in the 1960s, he went to become the disciple of Carl Jung. That's crazy. And I think surely, now the novel was written prior to Carl Jung, but he probably was reading and studying Jung prior to that. When did Jung, I don't know when did he publish his stuff? Let's see if he was, I mean, I think without looking, I assume there's some pretty heavy Jungian stuff going on. There's even some gross Freudian stuff going on in this novel, which I didn't expect. So we will talk about. But by the way, that it's not appropriate even to talk about some of the stuff in the novel on the live stream. I didn't know. I didn't remember this part of it. If you know what I'm talking about, there's some pretty weird sex stuff in this story, which I didn't expect. I didn't remember. I was trying to see when Carl Jung was publishing his books, but that's not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Anyway, when did he publish most of his stuff? I guess it would be 1875 to 1920s and 30s. So yeah, if Golding is writing in the 1940s and 50s, he would have been definitely reading Carl Jung. If you want to support the stream, you can do so via the Super Chats. Super Chats are done through Streamlabs. I got several to read here. I want to thank you guys. But before we do that, we do have a show sponsor that I want to tell you about, and that is the best in supplementation in the world. My favorite company, you got it, chalk.com.
Chad Mode is your ultimate natural pre-workout, designed to take your performance to the next level. Chad Mode is for Natty Beast alphas only. Whether you're hitting the gym, invading a favela, conquering a small village, gambling, burning the midnight oil, mogging on your coworkers, or getting banned from Facebook, Chad Mode gives you the competitive edge you need. It's as simple as mixing 1 or 2 scoops of our fine powder into water or juice, providing you with a delicious, energizing beverage featuring a burst of sweet, organic fruit flavor. Chad Mode will give you the extra edge you desperately crave. Chad Mode stands out from the crowd by excluding artificial flavors, preservatives, sweeteners, and dyes. We've even avoided so-called natural flavors, ensuring a clean and effective formula. Only soy boys and betas guzzle blue dye and sucralose, further tanking their already low testosterone levels. Chad Mode is made in America. Unlike your common TikTok peasant's pre-workout powder, it does not contain Chinese lab-made caffeine and artificial sweeteners that soy boys so often crave. Experience the pure goodness of Chad Mode with Blue Magic registered trademark organic blue spirulina extract, organic lemon, cherry, and organic maple crystals. Forget synthetic caffeine. Embrace the natural power of organic green coffee bean extract. Each dose of Chad Mode mirrors the caffeine kick of a cup and a half of coffee, delivering a surge of energy alongside essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbal extracts. Chad Mode will allow you to fire your boss and mog on anyone who opposes you. Chad Mode will give you a dominant and aggressive edge, like a lion hunting a gazelle where the gazelle is a TikTok gym zoomer macro guzzling sucralose on the daily, edging to TNF videos. Whether you're seeking a high-potency, junk-free pre-workout or a better way to kickstart your day, Chad Mode
I
has
want to
you
show off something that we're all proud of. I got a browser here. This is Jay Dyer's much vaunted, much sought after Philosophy 101. Now, he just got this page up. We are just testing it out. You guys are some of the first people in the world to see it. I want to say, for my part, it's not Philosophy 101. I think this is a mistitling. I really think of it as like Philosophy Unleashed, because a Philosophy 101 course, they give you kind of some useless information that you can't make sense of. Jay actually lays out over 12 weeks, dozens and dozens of hours put into just the presentation of this, let alone the hundreds and thousands of hours of research that it takes to have a coherent evolution and history of the origins of philosophy, the uses of philosophy, the different ways to look at it over time, and how that has been brought about to what we have today, which is almost an absence of philosophy on the objective logic and reason side, and an overabundance of woke philosophy that is irrational and is made up day by day as people are like, I think we should bring racism back. And then here's a justification. And then it gets wokeified and spread out. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of communist, socialist ideas where you become the property in action. You need to be able to stand your own ground. It helps to have a foundation in philosophy because it's a method to find truth. When you get down to it, philosophy is there because you love truth enough to go and learn how to find it because it's valuable. So if you're interested in things like that, there is the landing page. We'll link it up in the notes. It is a longer one, so we'll get a shorter URL for this. I'm sure Jay has a link on his page. I just wanted to show it off. Now you know it exists. You can go look for it and see why this is not your father's philosophy, right? So well done. I'm proud of everyone who helped to produce and edit the course. And of course, Jay did a flawless job in presenting the course over those 12 weeks. And he's a juggernaut. He's another.
All right, I want to remind you to head over to chalk.com and use the promo code J40 to get 40% off any of these great products, including especially the Male Performance Stack. That includes Action 2.0, the Chad Mode pre-workout, and the Tomcat Elite, proven to boost testosterone in peer-reviewed studies, which you can read over at chalk.com. You're not going to pay $174. You're going to pay 40% off of that, or 44% off if you set up the recurring subscription. You can cancel at any time, but it does give you a little more of a discount if you use J44Life. That's JY44LIFE at our beloved sponsor, chalk.com. Now, this is half the show, the half lecture for public subscribers. If you want to get the full show, you can subscribe to Jay's Analysis or to my Rockfin, and you get access to all of the archives going back the last 10 years of lectures, analyses, podcasts, interviews, on and on and on. A wealth of knowledge, a grad school education for a mere pittance. Still $4.95 a month, $60 a year, or over at Rockfin. Let's see, we got some super chats here. Zion. No way. Average illiberal zealous T. $1. Do you know about Marx's alleged theory of knowledge? I had two pretty intense classes on Marx and Marxism in Frankfurt School. I don't have like a vast knowledge of Marx's epistemology. I mean, it's pretty, I think it's pretty commonsensical. Like he's very against abstract speculative stuff. It's very sort of common sense. Marx says, quote, knowledge comes from the world and by generalizing from the particular. Fire burns and so it's hot. Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, it's pretty kind of common sense type epistemology. Xeon, $3. I noticed that both Orthodox and Roman Catholics say that there's no salvation outside the church. If you keep that in mind, when a Protestant seems to justify his position, I guess you're saying, from Mark 9:38 as an ecumenist, do they also prove they are the church? No, Jesus says in that passage that anyone who's not amongst us will not for very long continue to be not amongst us. So the assumption is that they will also eventually join with us. And if you read the book of Acts, particularly I think 9 to 18, I think it's chapter 9 and chapter 18, but it's around in there. A couple times when Paul goes out as a missionary, he finds disciples of John, he finds Apollos and others, and he brings them under the episcopate. So that tells you the appropriate approach there. So it's not just about Mark 9. You have to also look at passages like what happens in the book of Acts. Smoky Plain, $3. I'm interested to hear if you will talk about Freudianism in Lord of the Flies. I will. In fact, the copy that I have has an essay in the back discussing Freudianism in Lord of the Flies. So even though there is this clear Jungian stuff, there is also the weird, gross Freudian stuff, apparently, which I didn't know until getting into the novel this time. So I will talk about that in the part 2. I had to write about this book when I was in high school, and I didn't know anything about philosophy, so these insights will be very helpful. Thank you, appreciate that. Jay, no, we already read that one. Bumblebee, $3. Is this the bog pill video that you were looking for? Yes, thank you. It was the bog pill. We did find it. Nachi, $3.36. I've been reading Exodus. Is there anything more to chapters 25 to 31 in terms of the building of the tabernacle, the garments, the rituals? How does this relate to Christians today? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in those chapters that is typological. So typology is really for us as Christians, the main purpose as to how we would find meaning, or the source of the meanings that we would look for in those chapters. So, opening mine up. Well, we also have theophanies. Okay, so I mean, it's not just the implements of the temple and the tabernacle that are relevant for us in terms of their symbolism, their typology. There's also theophanies that come up in these passages. But if you're looking for a specific section in the New Testament, you obviously the book of Hebrews. Okay, so Hebrews 7 particularly obviously would be very relevant to interpreting the meaning of the temple and its implements. By the way, the deity of the Holy Spirit is in Exodus 31 and 33. He's mentioned as a distinct person. So you can find the Trinity in these passages as well. There's a theophany in Exodus 33, which is very clear. And, most of the elements of the temple foreshadow, for example, the bronze sea. Well, this is foreshadowing baptism. The holy bread, right? The showbread foreshadows in part the Eucharist. The temple itself is, according to Jesus, destroy this temple and in 3 days I will raise it up. He spoke of the temple of his body. The temple is a type of the body of Christ. The temple is a type of the church itself. I mean, the body of the church, the believers, not just the building, the people. Exodus 33, this is crucial for face-to-face seeing the uncreated glory. This is where Moses sees Christ face-to-face. So, this is packed with stuff for us. The Passover, Pentecost, these are direct. Passover's Pascha. Pentecost, Feast of Pentecost, Acts 2. So you better believe there's a lot of this for Christians. Now, if you're looking for a basic introduction, in fact, the Orthodox Study Bible on page, 111, has an entire page just dedicated to the typology of the tabernacle and the temple. See? So, yes, and again, the book of Hebrews, particularly Hebrews 7, lays down the principles for how we would interpret a lot of these temple instruments. Stefan DV, 1771. This is a great stream. I'll watch this, Jay. Thank you to FDA and company and your videos. They brought me back to orthodoxy. Cool beans, dude. Quick question. What is your favorite series and movies? And/or movie? I like a lot. Obviously, it's hard to pick one favorite. I like, TV shows. The Americans is probably one of the best shows ever that I can think of off the top of my head. Movie-wise, it's going to be a lot of probably ones you would expect, like Lord of the Rings, Godfather trilogy. But other TV shows that I like a whole lot. Psych is a great TV show. X-Files, classic, one of my favorite TV shows. Mystery Science Theater, Riff Tracks, favorite comedy shows. I mean, yeah. Video games, growing up, Final Fantasy, and Resident Evil. Alex Doom 52, $2. What do you think about superstars that sell their soul to the devil? I don't know that there's some actual parchment written in blood, but this is more like, debasing and degrading yourself to get fame, attention, and money. So in that sense, and then, I mean, there are cults in Hollywood where people, sell out to the cult. So in that sense, yeah. G Snow, $5. Check out an anime called Monster. Are you talking about that movie, like a CGI movie about the haunted house? But you're calling it anime, so that's probably not what he's talking about. Interesting. No, I'm not familiar with this. But everybody's also always saying do Neon Genesis Evangelion or whatever. So got to do this. Now, everybody's probably seeing Ghost in the Shell. I mean, that's straight up MK Ultra transhumanist stuff for sure. But I have to check that out. Proud Goyam, $1. Jay, how much do I need for super chat to do analysis of Halo? Tons of esoteric Christians. Yeah, I mean, I'll play the crap out of Halo back in the day. I mean, like probably too much. And I did play the first or second campaign. I don't remember much about it, but might be interesting. I'm not gonna go back and play Halo. That was like, I don't know, 2006-07 for me. So I don't know. DC Woodworking, $3. Thank you so much, James. Why do Fabian Socialists think that it's going to be easier to push their agenda on Muslims and Christians? They're not really pushing the agenda on Muslims. Muslims were their tool for changing the UK and changing Europe. So I think they think that down the road, Islam will continue to be some sort of tool for them, and that if they really needed to, they could convince future generations to leave and eventually become socialist. I mean, I don't know, but they explicitly say that they will use Islam to change the face of Europe. So Emil saw $5. I've always wondered how Origen could be a martyr. He's not a martyr, and by the way, he was condemned in his own day by Saint Optatus. So people have these. They said Origen was never condemned in his day by contemporaries. Yes, he was. Saint Optatus condemned him, and he's not a martyr. So, not sure where you heard that. He was anathematized in his day, and then anathematized by 3 successive ecumenical councils, 5, 6, and 7. Again, so you want the